So we just bought a minivan. I can't believe I'm smiling saying that. We both kind of swore off ever having a minivan, right?
But now we are really happy about
I mean,
it.
it's pretty cool. Like once you have little kids, and we got 3 of them now, and it's really nice having some of the conveniences of a minivan. But anyway, so I got to use my kind of method and my system for buying a car that is reliable for a good price. Yeah. And so I want to talk through a little bit of that. Basically, it's my 5-step process that I follow whenever we buy a car. And it has served us well so far. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about now.
I am not the kind of girl that thinks through this stuff. That's why I'm really glad I married you. But that's also why we're sharing this, is because this is really helpful when you are buying a car.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So number 1 is buying a car that is about 2 to 4 years old.
Somewhere in there. New cars are nice in some ways, but the amount of money that you lose to depreciation over those first couple of years. Think about having 2 different buckets that you're carrying water in, okay? One of them has one little hole that's letting some water out, and the other one has like 5 holes that are like, fist-size holes, and the water's just draining out really, really fast. A new car is that bucket that has all these holes, and you're just losing money in the total value of the car really, really quickly. That's why it's so nice to buy a car that is a bit older, because it loses money at a much lower rate of speed. And so if you have to own something that is going to be losing money, which pretty much every car that we purchase is going to be losing money,
right,
it might as well be losing money at a slower pace, right?
Yes.
So,
and I have to say, I'm the kind of girl that wants a new car.
But I brainwashed you into believing that this is a good idea.
Most of these cars are really still, they feel really nice and new.
Yeah,
so,
you can if you get a well taken care of 4-year-old car, like we just did, that's exactly what we did.
What we did. And it looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks fantastic on the outside. There were 1 or 2 little stains on the inside that we wish we could have fixed.
As fantastic as a minivan can look from the outside.
Yeah. So that's the goal, looking for a car that is in that 2 to 4-year-old range window. And going older isn't a bad idea. It just depends on how reliable of transportation that you need to have it in terms of all this. If it were up to me and I was by myself, I'd be buying one even older than that to minimize that depreciation. But this is the sweet spot for us. And, it's a generally accepted kind of a range to be in to minimize depreciation while having a newer, nicer car.
Yep. And I can agree to that.
Yeah. Number 2 is to go to consumerreports.org and then pay for 1 month of their online service. And this will be the best money that you spend when you are buying a car. What's cool about them is they're an independent research firm who researches cars and their reliability ratings and all this stuff. It's just a wealth of information to help you find a car that is reliable, that's going to last, that doesn't have problems, and then find the ones that are. And so you want to avoid the ones that are problem ones and then buy the ones that are better.
Once you if you just go to buy a car by looks, and then you go to Consumer Reports and you're like, this thing could be breaking down on me quite often. It just kind of takes the appeal away.
That $70,000 Range Rover looks really nice while it's moving.
That one is painful
But on
for
the
me.
side of the highway, it doesn't look too cool
Not so
anymore.
much fun. I mean, and even if it doesn't break down on the side of the highway, just the inconvenience of having a lot of things that need to be fixed over and over, even if you have a warranty and all that stuff, just makes it maybe not worth it.
Exactly. And so what you'll find, and this is changing a little bit now, but generally speaking, Asian cars, particularly Japanese cars, they're just very reliable cars. They make a great product that lasts a long time. Yeah, so really pretty much the last 13 years we've owned Hondas, and they've been nothing but really amazing for us.
Yeah, and we've owned other cars too, but those have really
but those have been our kind of primary cars. And compared to some of the other cars I've owned, it's just like night and day. Like I owned all American cars growing up, and I love buying an American car. I'm an American. I love doing that. But the reality is it's not. Well, it's a global market now. 20 miles away from me is a huge Nissan factory where they're building Nissans. That's not an American company, but they manufacture them right down the street. So it's a very different thing than it used to be in terms of kind of having a nationalist kind of thing with the cars that you're buying. So once I go to Consumer Reports, I'll kind of have some cars in mind that I'm thinking about, and I'll run them kind of through and look at the reliability ratings. So I'm looking at them for that car, but specifically also for the car years that I'm looking at. So in our case, we just bought this Honda Odyssey. We bought a 2015, which had much better ratings than I think the 2016 and the 2014 in terms of reliability. So they did something different in that year, or they were manufactured in a different place or something that made that year vehicle a better buy than the year after and before. So those are things you want to keep in mind as you're kind of going through. It's not just the one car, but also the year that it was made. Number 3 on the list is to look at Edmunds' total cost to own number. And if you've heard of Edmunds, they're a big kind of car information website. They have this number that they kind of calculated for pretty much every car, where they tell you the total cost to own this car over 5 years. And so that includes things like gas mileage, that includes things like insurance, that includes things like reliability and how many repairs are needed, like all the stuff. They roll it up into one big number, which they call total cost to own. And this has been really interesting because when we bought our Honda Fit, like what was that, probably 12 years ago or something, it was one of our first cars in our marriage. It was a Honda Fit, tiny little car with great gas mileage. That had a really low total cost to own number. And meanwhile, there were other cars like kind of in that class that might have even been cheaper cars, maybe a couple $1,000s cheaper to buy, but actually were considerably more expensive total cost to own over the 5-year period. You know, maybe because of gas mileage, maybe because of repairs or whatever. But it's a good number to look at. It'll give you a good idea of, you know, how much you're going to be spending over the 5-year period for everything involved with this car purchase.
You know, I just realized the Fit looked like a minivan. It looked like a tiny minivan.
The Honda Fit, it does. Doesn't it look like a tiny little minivan?
It really
like
does.
with doors? It's, but
I know.
It got the job done.
That was a great car.
It was a really great car.
Really
if you have
good
the opportunity to drive a Fit, they're actually really fun to drive too. Number 4 is to identify the trim level of the car you want to buy. So in our case, we just bought this Honda Odyssey, you know, and there's like 7 different trim levels of different things that they have in bells and whistles and whatever. And we figured out what our kind of non-negotiables were, what we wanted in this vehicle, and we found out which trim level we needed to have in order to have that. And this is really good information to have because depending on what the trim level is, you might be spending $10,000 difference between these two to buy essentially a lot of things you don't care about, you know, if it's a trim level package with junk that, you just don't need. So find out what that is and find out, you know, what the lowest level trim level is that gets you all the things that you want. And that's going to make searching for the specific vehicle just a lot easier. You know, as you're going through different sites like Auto Trader or whatever, searching for used cars, you'll be able to search for trim level as well, and that'll really pull down your price of what you're spending.
Yeah, and it'll also just save you the time and the hassle of like getting to look at a car and realizing it doesn't have stuff that you actually wanted in there.
Which we've done that
a couple of times.
Yeah, we actually drove, I don't know, what was it, 100, 200 miles to go buy our Honda Pilot. It was the top trim level, and I mistakenly assumed that because it was the top trim level, that it included 4-wheel drive. Like, we absolutely wanted 4-wheel drive, and we got all the way down there and realized, even though this is the touring package, it didn't have 4-wheel drive. So that was a bummer. So do your homework before you drive really far away to find a car. Do you want to do it?
No, I don't really know what to say about it. So I'm going to let you do this one.
All right. Number 5 is get a CarFax or Auto Check. And these are two kind of different companies that will give you a history about the car. And this is really, really important. You know, and so when you're going through and looking at different cars, and basically for me, I'm looking for a car that hasn't had any accidents. That's the ideal. And sometimes that's hard to find. And if it's a super minor accident, I might let it slide. But if it's been in a pretty bad collision, like, that just messes a lot of stuff up on the inside. And I just don't feel like taking chances on that. I would rather have a car with no accidents, all things being considered. I also like a car with one owner. You have one person who's owned a car, you know, for 5 years or for 4 years, like that. That feels a whole lot better than one that's been turned over 3 different times. And then the other thing is like if it's been dealer serviced the entire time and you have records of that like that's gold, you know, because you have people who are the best experts at taking care of that car, doing the service work. You know, that's just really, really good rather than getting in there and seeing that there are no oil changes reported in the last 50,000 miles. It's like maybe the owner did them. Like I do them myself, but you know, I would much rather have that in writing on the record. And so those are the things that I'm looking for with that. And there's a variety of other things you can consider when looking at these. But these are 2 different ways to get very specific information on the exact car that you're looking at because it's based off of a VIN number for that actual car. Yeah.
All right, you have a bonus?
We got a bonus. So bonus one is, and this is, we haven't done this yet, but this is kind of what we almost did and I almost wish we would have done.
We would have, yeah.
Yeah, more and more companies are offering like a 7-day try it before you buy it kind of guarantee thing, which is really nice. You know, so in our case, we didn't use this, but a company like CarMax, I think Carvana might do this as well, and I think there's a few more where you can buy it from them, you know, for any reason at all. you don't like it, you can return it, get your money back, no questions asked. So obviously make sure the company you're doing that with, that's what their policy is. But in our case, it worked out fine. We ended up buying from a dealer, and it just wasn't the best experience.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
But the car itself is fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like after 4 days we wanted to return it. But what's nice about having a policy like this is you have the option of doing that. So you could take it to a mechanic 2 days after you bought it and have them check it over, make sure everything looks good. Somebody who knows more about cars than you do. And I don't know, it just provides a level of comfort knowing that they did that. And more importantly, that you have 7 days to kind of return it. So that's something that I am always looking for. And I'm, every car we buy going forward, I want to be looking for something like that, just for that little insurance policy. All right. So what are you going to add here?
Okay. So the only thing that I think I want to add is just be really careful not to just buy emotionally. It's really, really difficult to do. You can really save yourself a lot of hassle, a lot of, I don't know if heartache's the right word, but maybe it is.
Well, and not to mention, like, if you're dealing with any sort of shady car dealer at all, like, they are banking on the fact that you are buying emotionally. Like, they are, all, like, that's how they are going to,
it won't be a good situation. So work and muster up every piece of patience that you have to do your research, take your time, and don't be in a rush.
Yeah, and the more information, really all these things are just providing information for you to make a good decision. And the more information you have, the better decision you're going to be able to make. And you're going to be in a better position, like negotiating, just having this information and knowing what you actually want. And and be patient. Like, the car will come out, it will be available. And so today's search, if you don't see it, that's okay. Or if there's only one, but it's from a shady dealer, like, just wait. You're going to find the car. Just be patient.
Yep.
So those are ours. What would you add to this list? I'd love to hear. Throw it down in the comment section below. And if you've enjoyed this, if this is helpful at all, hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe and hit the bell so you hear every new little thing that comes out from us. And we like talking about money and talking about how to manage it wisely using biblical principles. And so that's what we do here. So feel free to join us. All right, that's all for now. Be blessed. Be a blessing.
See ya.
Adios.